Hey everyone, it's Aaron. Welcome to Inhabiting Stories. In today's video, I wanted to go over the best books I've read in 2026 so far. It's currently July, and I've had some great reads. As I was looking over my reviews for the year so far, I was just reminded of how much enjoyment I've had reading these books. There's 8 on this list. There's one's an audiobook. 5 of these authors are new to me, so new series, new authors. It's just been excellent. I have 0 complaints so far for this year. So let's get into it. The first book on my list for best books of 2026 so far is Thrice by Andrew D. Meredith. This is a self-pub, kind of a Slavic-inspired, fairy tale-esque, very atmospheric read. It's a father and son tale, and Leaf is the son, and he has these magical abilities. And basically, him and his father are on the run. Things have happened, plot stuff ensues, and they have to flee. Certain authors have this ability to make you, it's almost like you can smell the smells in the story and taste the food they're describing and just really feel what they're trying to portray. And Andrew Meredith was great at this. This is a trilogy, 4 books trilogy. It's trilogy or it's 4 books. It's at least a trilogy. I've only read book 1 in the series. There's an omnibus edition that I purchased on Kickstarter, so that's on the way. But anyways, this was a great read. I will definitely be rereading this at some point. But yeah, first book is Thrice by Andrew D. Meredith, and you should definitely check it out. Okay. All right. And for the second book, and the best books of 2026 for me, was The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. Very chunky book. I've heard most people really like this book. A few people don't really see the intrigue of it. I know book 1 was, to me, was very different from book 2. Book 1 felt much more like a history, and it was not really there was a narrative, but it didn't feel like it as much. This definitely felt like much more of a narrative. East Asian inspired story. There's political intrigue. There's philosophy. There are heartbreaking side stories that are just gut-wrenching, heroic tales. There's only one other book where I immediately wanted to reread it, and that was Memories of Ice by Stephen Erickson, which that's probably like one of my top 5 favorite books ever. Anyways, this is another one of those books where I finished it and I said, I don't want to reread book 1. I just want to reread this one all over again. It was excellent. So I need to continue in this series very badly. I'm not sure. I haven't heard much about books 3 and 4. I haven't looked into it too much. But yeah, this was an excellent read. I'm so glad I read The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. All right. Okay, book 3. So it was The Curse of the Mistwraith by Janie Wertz in the Wars of Light and Shadow series. So this book was book 1, and then Ships of Merrier is book 2. And she's been getting much more attention on BookTube lately, I guess in the past year-ish, maybe a little bit longer. But I was always hesitant to pick it up because I just heard, all the prose is dense and all that stuff. But my experience with this was just phenomenal. I absolutely love Janie Wertz's prose. I get the whole density thing, but I just think she really takes her time, and if you're patient with yourself and patient with the story, it pays off immensely, in my opinion. It's essentially about 2 half-brothers, Erathon, who's the master of shadow, and Lysair, and he has the gift of light, and they are destined to destroy this ancient evil, but then stuff happens, and they are pitted against each other. And it's funny, in book 1, you think if they defeat the Mistwraith, the story's going to be over. But it just totally takes you places you wouldn't have expected to go in the narrative, and it was just beautiful. There are scenes in this book and in Ships of Merrier that I think about almost daily. There's almost nothing I didn't like about this book. The character work is phenomenal. The lore and world building is rich and deep and complex. It's easy to follow, so it's not like it's difficult, and it's not like a Gardens of the Moon experience. Not to get into that whole thing, but it's a little more simple than that. But the character work is so good. Erathon may be one of my favorite fantasy MCs ever, depending on how this whole series goes. I'm starting book 4 this month, so we'll see how that goes. But this has just been an excellent experience. This could easily be top 3 series of all time. depending on how everything goes. I don't want to say that too early, but just from what I've read so far, Janie Orts is incredible, and people have put much more eloquent reviews out about this series. So go check those reviews out. But yes, this has been excellent, and this was a one of my top favorite books of the year. Okay. Oh, by the way, these aren't in order. These are just in the order of when I read them in the year. All right. Next, for my next book of my favorite books I've read in 2026 so far, was The Sea Watch by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And I've only made 2 other videos so far on BookTube, but he's mentioned every time because I've just been reading so much Tchaikovsky. It's kind of wild. It's funny because he's still not like one of my favorite authors, but I've read so much of his stuff. And this series is excellent. This is book 6. I think I already said that. I don't know. Book 6 in the Shadows of the App series. I talked about this in my previous videos, but it's essentially humans have evolved to develop these bug abilities. So there's the grasshopper kindin, the ant kindin, the beetle kindin, all these different kindins, and they have these powers. So like if you're part of the wasp kindin people, you know have kind of like sting. You can like sting people in certain ways. I don't want to give away too much. It sounds kind of silly, but it works really well. And Tchaikovsky is an excellent author, an excellent writer. So it just works really well. It's very political, heavy, a lot of sieges, a lot of battles. But in this one, why I like this so much was because it's called the Sea Watch. So he basically creates this an entirely new civilization, this new world, these new Kindin. And they're called the Sea Kindin. And so it's just like the bugs, except they're like there's the octopus Kindin, all these other Kindins. I don't want to give away a lot. I'm trying to think how I can say it. Essentially, he just created an entirely new civilization and world that could be its own series with this. It was just so atmospheric, so well done. The characters were excellent. He's really good at introducing new characters in the middle of a series and making you love them. So he adds I feel like he adds new characters almost every single book installment, and this is a 10-book series. And I've loved all of them. There's never been a character where I've been, oh man, there's a new character. I have to get used to this person. It's been really well done. So I enjoyed this a lot. This is The Sea Watch by Adrian Tchaikovsky in the Shadows of the Apt series. All right, next. So this is definitely not a new author. I don't have to go into too much detail with this, but this was Fellowship of the Ring. And I have this cute little it looks really big up here, but when I go this way, it's very small. And I have my little tabs because it was just it's the Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm not going to give a rundown. There's just passages in this that I could read every single day, and it's beautiful and it's lovely and it fills me with wonder and it makes me see the world in a better way. And there's nothing I don't like about this. By the way, I am really not good at telling you when I read those books. Not that it matters a lot, but I read The Sea Watch and The Fellowship of the Ring in April. All right, next up for best books of 2026. For me, this is a new author. I've seen her name floating around BookTube for a bit. Finally decided to give her a shot, and I was not disappointed whatsoever. And it was Patricia McKillop, and the book is Odd Magic. Yep, OD Magic. It's not a typo. And look at that cover art. That got there. A lot of her covers, I think maybe all of her covers are beautiful like this. It's just great. In this story, magic is controlled by law, and our main character, he's a gardener. He has these magical abilities, and he's recruited by Odd to go to her wizard school. And he is enrolled there, and he starts shaking up the whole monarchy and how magic is used and what magic is for. And I was absolutely enchanted by the first paragraph. I mean, when you read a book and you just know it's going to be for you, that's what this was. Now, it wasn't perfect all the way through. There was a little bit too much romance in it for me, and it wasn't at all heavy. Like, it wasn't, a heavy romance book whatsoever. There was a romance plot line, but it didn't at all detract from my experience overall. There are scenes in this book it's some of the most beautiful prose I've read, some of the most beautiful scenes I've ever read. I feel like if you are a fan of maybe Robin Hobb or even Janie Wertz, you would probably like something about Patricia McKillop's work. I read this book and I immediately purchased like 3 or 4 other ones. So I have not all of her standalones, but I think she actually only does standalones. I'm not too sure. But I have a few more of her books, and I was just blown away by how good this was. I want to reread it again, and they're short. It's a good little quick standalone. So if you have any other authors comparable to Patricia McKillop, very lyrical and poetic and atmospheric, please send them my way. because I will read anything that's comparable to this because it's beautiful writing and a great story. Okay, and next is the one audiobook that is on my best books of 2026, and I read this in June. It was Dogs of War by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I mentioned this in my previous video, maybe even in both my videos, but it's essentially about bioengineered animals, and the government has created these animals so that they can serve in war and be soldiers. And our main character is a bioengineered dog named Rex, and he's all about loyalty and obedience, and um, stuff happens, and you get to explore themes of control, of trust, of conscience, what it means to obey commands if you feel that it's wrong. You get to explore all these themes in Rex's um, point of view. And there are other bioengineered animals in this book. It hit home for me really easily, just from my own personal experiences in life. And it was a treat to listen to. I will definitely listen to the other books, and if I like it, I will purchase the physical copies. Dogs of War was great. It was another great Tchaikovsky read, and I'm glad I read it. Okay, we've made it to our last book of best books of 2026 so far. And this book might be the most difficult for me to review because it was just trippy and I didn't understand most of it. I was halfway through and still didn't understand what was going on. Um, but it was excellent. Another new author for me, and the book was Two Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. Okay, I've had this on my shelf for a long time, and there was a buddy read, and of course I said yes because I just had to. And I don't think I've ever had such a unique reading experience than I did with this book. It's set in the 25th century on Earth. So many things are different. Gender roles are different. Um, the government setup is totally different, but it follows. Well, I don't even want to say it follows. There is one POV. His name's Bridger, and he's a little boy, and he has the power to bring inanimate objects to life. And this is a very sci-fi heavy book, very political, very philosophical, very technological. But this one character named Bridger, he's a little boy, and he can just bring stuff to life. He can draw a picture and bring it to life if he'd like to. And it's just this one fantasy element in this very sci-fi heavy story, and his character alone makes me want to continue the series. But what Ada Palmer has done here, it's beyond the scope of anything I've read. She is a master storyteller. The way she describes her characters and creates her characters, the way they speak, even what they're wearing, it's it is phenomenal. It's phenomenal storytelling. I was confused almost the whole time, and that's just probably me because I'm not a big sci-fi guy, so it kind of takes me a bit longer to catch on to what's going on in some of these books. But I kept thinking about it when I was at work, when I was just in my off time. I was thinking about what's going to happen next. I was never bored with this book, and sometimes the sci-fi heavy elements could just get me because I don't understand stuff, and it's like, oh, it's too much work to figure out what these terms mean, so I'm just gonna like blow by it, and hopefully I'll pick it up along the way. With this, eventually I just stopped asking questions and just enjoyed it. And Palmer will give you what you need to know along the way. And I kind of thought things would be resolved, very fairly quickly in this book, but it's not at all. It's 4-book series. This was excellent. It was so mind bending. She's an excellent author, and I can't wait to read more of her stuff. All right, so that is a wrap for my best books of 2026 so far. I had some excellent reads. I'm looking forward to continue having a great reading year. If you guys want to connect further, my socials are linked below. And just thank you guys for watching this video. If you have any other atmospheric reads are my jam. So I don't care if it's fantasy, sci-fi, something else. Please comment below and let me know if there's other authors that I'm missing out on, because give me an author that can really put me in a location or in a story and just put me there. I am all about it. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.